Okay, so a few weeks ago I bought a box set called Chicago, the Studio Albums Volume 1. Well, this here is Chicago, the Studio Albums Volume 2. So I'm going to go ahead and open this one up. Now, if you're one of those people who says, Chicago died with Terry Kath, I don't like anything that came out after that, stop this video right now, go back and look at my review for Chicago Albums Volume 1. That's where I talk about all that, and I would think that Volume 1 does have all of my absolute favorites in that one. Okay, now that we got those people gone, I actually really do like Chicago's 80s stuff and some of their later career. So let's go ahead and open this up, and I'll give you a little review of all the different albums. So we got Chicago, Studio Albums Volume 2, 10 studio albums from the legendary rock and roll band with horns include Chicago 13, 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, Night and Day, 30, and The Stone of Sisyphus. Okay. Look on the back, you got your track listings. The side says the studio albums. I've already opened this so I can get the plastic open. Hype sticker still on there. I'm going to keep the plastic because I like to put the original sticker on the front of the album. Need to keep that sticker intact. I like saving those. Okay, and I would assume it folds open just like the first set. Ah, here we go. Okay, so we have Chicago 13, here's 14, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, Night and Day, the big band album, 30, and the Stone of Sisyphus. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and sort these again. And I'm going to give you a quick little review about each of these albums. Well, most of these at least. I have listened to a lot of these albums, but unlike Box Set 1 where I've listened to every album, I have not listened to every one of these albums, so I'll just give you a review of the ones I have listened to. Okay, so first we have Chicago 13. Got a really cool album cover, looks like a skyscraper. Oh, and something that it looks like this box set did that box set number 1 did not do. It actually replicates the back artwork, but I guess it's because, like, in the first box set, the back artwork looked pretty much exactly like the front, so they needed to do something a little different to list the tracks. But this one, they've replicated the back artwork. They got, here's Chicago in an elevator. It's like on the back of the vinyl, which I also have. Let's see. This album was kind of a commercial flop. It was released right after the mildly successful Hot Streets album, and Chicago wanted to try a little bit of disco on this album, and disco was on the way out, so it made it a flop. But my opinion of this album is it's not as bad as you think. It's got some good ones on there. The best song on the album is the first one called Street Player. It's disco sounding, but it's really groovy. The horns are doing really cool stuff on that album. It's like 9 minutes, so it's a really groovy track. You got some other ones on here. Must Have Been Crazy is Donnie Dacus, the new guitar player, showing his true colors. Doesn't sound anything like old Chicago, but, sounds good for what it is. Life Is What It Is, that's a pretty good one. Loser with a Broken Heart, Reruns, those are good ones. There's a couple of stinkers on this album, though, and they're unfortunately worse than the ones on Chicago 10, and those ones are Paradise Alley and Aloha Mama, which are right after each other, so you can just skip those two, but the first one is just a weird song, even though it's written by Robert Lamb, and the second one, the vocalist was listed as P.C. Mobley from the Peter Cetera Vocal Company. Well, it's really Peter Cetera trying to do an alter ego, and it sounds really weird. So, other than that, it's an okay album. Street Player is a really good track, very underrated. But the rest of the album is okay. I listened to this one a lot, though. I don't know why, but I like it a lot more than most people. Next we have Chicago 14. This is one of the coolest covers to a Chicago album. It's a fingerprint. You have the fingerprint on the back. This is my least favorite Chicago album I've ever listened to. The only two tracks I can even slightly recommend on this album are Song for You and Thunder and Lightning. Thunder and Lightning is a pretty good song, but the rest of this album, I don't know what they're thinking. This is the last one with Columbia Records, and you can tell they're running out of musical ideas on this album. So, don't listen to that one a lot. I mean, like I said, Song for You and Thunder and Lightning, listen to those every once in a while, but not my favorite Chicago album. Well, what do you do when you're at rock bottom? You have to come up. 1982, Chicago signs up with David Foster and creates this masterpiece right here, Chicago 16. With a brand new sound, Chicago was at the top of their game for the 80s, at least. Really good songs on here. Oh, look at this. Replicates the original back artwork. It's got some really good ones on here. It's got big hits, Hard to Say I'm Sorry, and Love Me Tomorrow. Both really good songs, especially if you like ballads. It's got some other good album tracks on here. What You're Missing is a good one. Follow Me, that was good. Bad Advice, I like that one. The new guy they got, Bill Champlin, he sings some of these songs. He's really good. Really good addition to the band. Now this does not, okay, warning, this album is amazing, but it doesn't sound anything like their 70s stuff, so if you're expecting like the rock and roll with horns kind of a sound, you're going to be kind of disappointed. If you think, though, that it's the 80s and Chicago needed to take a new direction because they've lost Terry Kath and they were like really down on their commercial success, then you're going to love this album. Very different sounding than any of their other stuff. Okay, what do you do now that you've made a great album? How about make an even better album? Chicago 17. This is a really good album. Ooh, and they've even replicated the back artwork. It's got big hits on here. Biggest one everyone knows is You're the Inspiration. It's also got some other good ones. Along Comes a Woman. Hard Habit to Break. That's a duet between Peter Cetera and Bill Champlin. It's an amazing song. Pretty much this whole album is good. If you like 80s music and if you like 80s Chicago with Peter Cetera as the lead, this is my favorite post-Terry Kath album. It's really good. Again, doesn't sound anything like their old stuff, but for their new sound, it's great. Okay, 1985 comes, and what happens? Peter Cetera quits the band to work on solo stuff, which is really sad, but we still get a pretty decent album here with Chicago 18. New guy, Jason Scheff. He's not Peter Cetera. His voice sounds completely different. Still pretty good, but, I don't like it as much as Peter Cetera. Pretty much, my favorite Chicago is from 1969 to 1984, which are all of the albums from Chicago Transit Authority up to 17. But that doesn't mean I hate all this other stuff afterwards. Like, this album right here, 18, it's still pretty good. It just doesn't really sound a lot like old Chicago, and it doesn't really sound a lot even like 80s, other 80s Chicago. This is late 80s Chicago. They're still using the horn section, but not quite as prominent. We got Forever. That's a good song by guess who? Robert Lamb. He's back. Will You Still Love Me? That's one of the best songs on this album. Okay, we have a very unfortunate thing though. This album made a remake of one of their classic songs, 25 or 6 to 4, in a more 80s style. You'd think that might be good, but no. It's not bad, but when you compare it to the original, it's pretty disappointing. Like, they got Steve Lukather from Toto to do the solo, which is pretty cool, but it's not Terry Kath. So while the rest of this album is great, the remake of 25 or 6 to 4, it's just okay. Alright, next we have 1989, Chicago 19. This is a weird album cover. But the album itself, it's not horrible. Definitely a lot better than Chicago 14. Still some pretty good stuff on here. We got I Don't Want to Live Without Your Love, We Can Last Forever, What Kind of Man Would I Be, Look Away. You know, all the late 80s Jason Chef hits. My favorite on here, Look Away. Pretty good song. Don't like it as much as the Peter Cetera stuff, but this still pretty good album. That's actually the last Chicago album I've listened to. I have not listened to any of these, so I've got some work to do. But we have, I'm going to show you these just so you can see what they look like. We have Chicago 21, which is the first album released in the 90s, right after Greatest Hits 82 to 89. Let's see, and then they were supposed to afterward release an album called The Stone of Sisyphus, which is they're like, we're tired of doing ballads. Let's do something else. But the record company didn't really like that, so they pushed it back and released that like way later. Instead, they came up with this album right here, Night and Day Big Band. I have not listened to this album. I've heard a few tracks off of it. But from what I've heard, not too big on this album. I've heard Sing Sing Sing. It's on The Very Best of Chicago, Only the Beginning. And, okay, that does not sound like Chicago at all. I know they brought the horns back, but really, it doesn't sound like their 70s stuff, doesn't sound like their 80s stuff. This is Chicago doing big band covers. Is this what they're reduced to? Come on, Chicago. Come up with some original stuff. Why couldn't they have released this album right here? Still, haven't listened to this album, but I think, from what I think that I would have rather heard this, because it's original stuff. Anyway, last album here, Chicago 30. Ooh, it's a Cement. I know absolutely nothing about this album. I have not listened to any of these songs. So, got some homework to do with that. Can't give it a grade yet because I have not listened to all of them. But from what I think, once again, 3 stars for the packaging because, like, no gatefolds, no posters. And I'll go ahead and say 4 stars for the music. Some of these albums over here, 16 and 17, definitely get 5 stars. But all around, just average of 4-star music. So, in total, I'm going to give this altogether about a 4-star rating.